You don't need to memorize formulas or even complete confusing multiple-step problems to get 100% on your dosage calculations exams. All you need to do is follow my 2 unbreakable rules, and don't forget the buddy system. In the next few minutes, I will teach you both, and I'll solve one question live so you can copy that setup on your next dosage calculation exam. By the way, if you want my free dosage calculations cheat sheet, leave a comment with DC, and I will send you a link where you can get your free dosage calculations cheat sheet, which includes a review of the 2 unbreakable rules, explains what the buddy system is, and gives you the most common conversion factors you have to have memorized. Now, before we jump into the dosage calculation example, here's a quick review of those basic principles I told you need to know. And don't worry, because they have nothing to do with math. First, when I talk about the buddy system, I'm talking about 2 numbers that look different, but they're actually exactly the same. For example, 1,000 milliliters and 1 liter. It is the exact same amounts, regardless of which way you say it. You can think about them like identical twins that are just wearing different disguises. But you won't be fooled, because now that you know that those 2 numbers are actually the same, even though they look different, I can show you how you have flexibility plugging in numbers like that into your dosage calculation setup. Because it gives us a lot of flexibility so long as we follow the 2 unbreakable rules. Speaking of, here's the 2 unbreakable rules. Rule number 1 is that units or disguises, so like the milliliters, the kilograms, the pounds, the units you're trying to solve for are going to get plugged in on the same side. And when we talk about sides, we're talking about plugging it in on the top or plugging it in on the bottom. Those are the sides, top and bottom. And the units or disguises we're trying to eliminate, they go on the opposite sides, still top or bottom. That's how we're going to be able to cancel them out. Now, I get that you might still be watching this video with a glazed over look in your eyes. That's okay, because it does take some practice. But the unbreakable rules and the buddy system are easier to understand when you see them in action. So let's do an example. Order amoxicillin 500 milligrams PO now. Available 250 milligram tablets. How many tablets are we going to give? Now, this might seem like a very simple problem, right? And it kind of is. You might even be able to do this one in your head if you've had some experience with this. But I think it's important to practice with these simpler problems when you're learning a new strategy, because it helps you to get more confident in those skills so that you don't have to think through a difficult problem while you're also thinking about new steps and strategies to use. The first step is our assessment step, and that's where we pull out the first 3 pieces of information we need for the problem. What we're solving for, which is how many tablets. I'm going to abbreviate that with tabs, but everything has to have a buddy. That is part of the buddy system rules. And in this case, the buddy is going to be dose, because when we know how many tablets we're giving, we're going to know that that is a dose. And when we have given a dose, we'll know how many tablets we've given. That's how we know these are twins wearing disguises, because they're really the same thing. The second piece of information we're figuring out is the order. And that's usually pretty easy to find because it usually will say order. And in this case, the order is 500 milligrams. Now, they're still trying to make the buddy a little tricky to find, but we can also figure out that if it's 500 milligrams being given now, then that's going to be the dose that we're giving. Learning to identify these buddies more quickly and easily is probably the biggest benefit of practicing, because there's only so many ways they can hide or try to trick you with these buddies. And once you've seen it a few times, you're never going to miss them anymore. But you can always ask the buddy system question to guide you. If the patient's been given 500 milligrams of medication, do we know they've been given 1 dose? Yes, they have. And if they've been given 1 dose, do we know they've received 500 milligrams? Of course. Therefore, these are twins wearing disguises. They are buddies. The third thing we're going to identify is what's available. Often that is going to be the concentration of the medication. And in this case, it says that there's 250 milligrams, and that would be of the medication in the tablet. That's our 2 buddies right there. We're going to write 250 milligrams of the medication per tab. So we know that if we have 250 milligrams of the medication, we have 1 tablet. And if we have 1 tablet, we have 250 milligrams of the medication. That's our step 1 of the process. Step 2 is where we plug in what we're solving for, which is tab per dose. I like to cross it out so we don't get mixed up and accidentally use it again. Then we're going to set up for dimensional analysis. But it's my way of doing dimensional analysis, not back from when you're in chemistry, so don't worry. Now, this next part is where we get to put our Sherlock Holmes hat on and be a detective. This is where it gets fun, because we should have fun when we are learning. And we're going to plug in the laziest thing we can by following the 2 unbreakable rules. Remember, rule number 1 is anything we're trying to solve for has to go on the same side. So we're going to need something with tablets here on top and something with dose here on bottom. So that's what we're going to look for first. And we see both dose and tab. It does not matter which one we pick first. It does not matter what order we plug things in as long as we follow the 2 rules. So I'm just going to go with the order because that's first in line. Now, dose has to go on bottom because of rule number 1 of the unbreakable rules, because things we're solving for go on the same side. I'm going to circle that so we can visually see. And that means that the buddy goes on top. And now we have a new clue to follow because now we have milligrams. We still have tabs, so we still need tabs somewhere here. But milligrams we got to get rid of, which means milligrams has to go somewhere down here. Now, this problem makes it really nice and easy because we can see we have tabbed and we have milligrams. So we can cross that out. And we know tablet has to go on top because of rule number 1, and milligram has to go on bottom because of rule number 2. So that's convenient because it's a buddy, so it had to go there anyway. And because of rule number 2, things that we are eliminating have to go on opposite sides. Now, if you do this the way that I just showed you by circling every unit you're solving for and crossing out everything we are eliminating, then you can easily see that we are finished setting up this problem. Sadly, it is time to take off the Sherlock Holmes cap because now we are getting to the math. When we do that, the math doesn't look so difficult anymore, does it? You just have to multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom, and divide 2 numbers. So let's do that. I'll move my video out of the way, and I'm going to move up here. So we have 500. Remember, milligrams is gone. The only unit we have left on the top is tablet. So we put that there. And on the bottom, we have 250, but dose is our unit down here. Once we have that multiplication done, then we have to divide the 2 numbers, and 500 divided by 250 is 2, which means we have 2 tablets per dose. And that, in this case, is our final answer because we do not need to round it. Do you see how math doesn't have to be the hardest part of dosage calculations anymore? When you keep track of the units, you always know exactly what to do next. And with the guidance of the 2 unbreakable rules, plus a little bit of practice, I promise that you will never get a dosage calculation problem wrong again. If you want to use the practice plan that I recommend, comment with DC below and I will include it with the free cheat sheet that I will send you. The cheat sheet has all the common conversion factors you need to memorize, a summary of the 2 unbreakable rules, and the buddy system. And if you want me to walk you through over 40 different practice questions just like this, from IV drips all the way to the most complicated weight-based dosage calculations, then make sure you also get my full Conquer Dosage Calculations course. Or you can join my Study Like a Nurse tutoring membership because it's also included in that.